Journey Across Gene's Saga. Book 1. Now, Then, to Come. Part 2. Then. Chapter 5. Bedap. Hold's shine casts a patchwork of towering silhouettes across the dense forest floor, making the dew on the underbrush sparkle like a sea of silver speckles. Makk is standing on the ladder. One outstretched hand holds the hatch open from underneath, while the fingers on the other are poking at a glowing clump of moss on the hatch's rim. Then, Makk's gaze moves from out into the woods, away from the ruined structure under which the bunker access is hidden. Over the centuries, the forest has extended its viny tentacles up to the ruins, covering everything in thicket creeper and all kinds of bryophytes and lichens. Parts of the forest floor begin to light up in the same throbbing green. It's almost as if someone is leaving a trail of breadcrumbs like they do in the old children's stories that had ceased to be passed down through the generations. But these breadcrumbs are green, and they glow. As they climbs out of the bunker, Takver is right behind them. She's quick to brace her hand up against the hatch so it doesn't slam down onto her head. By now, she's seen the glowing carpet moss and has interpreted Makk's silence as shock and intrigue. She is also a bit in shock herself, and she's definitely intrigued. It's all very surreal. Mushrooms that glow green in the journal entries, now fuzzy moss that lights up and blinks green in the here and now. Takver watches as Makk squats down in front of the glowing artifacts, examining each one up close. Finally, Makk interrupts the silence. Moss, 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 mushroom. And then, squatting down in front of the next one, they also squeeze in excitement. Ishtanem. Makk lets out another squee. It's so itty-bitty and teeny-weeny. Talk, look at this one. It's almost as if Makk is in a trance, forgetting that the two of them are outside and shouldn't be making a bunch of noise. Instead, Makk needs to avoid drawing attention to themselves or to Takver. Takver just stands there on the ladder, holding the hatch open and watching the unlikely scene unfold. She merges with Makk, sending them a warning, a warm red hue. You shouldn't be making so much noise, Sib. Then she too sees the breadcrumb-like trail of fluorescent patches that leads off a ways into the near distance. Realizing that it's up to her to be on the lookout, given Makk's complete disregard of her warnings, she climbs out of the bunker. Despite being really aggravated by Makk's complete disregard, she manages to close the hatch behind her with a quiet thump. Makk is a few paces ahead, and the clumps of moss and other fungi that were once glowing behind them have gone back to being their normal, obscured selves. As she gets closer to Makk, Takver notices that they's gone quiet. A few paces from her, Makk is sitting on their folded legs, resting their rear on their heels. The toes of their foot coverings are touching, while the heels are spread, creating a V shape. Their frock is mostly bunched up at the front around their knees. They is cupping a toadstool mushroom with their right hand, green light pulsating. Their eyes are closed as they is completely silent. Takver tries merging. Sib, are you okay? Can you share with me? Silence. Meanwhile, unperceived by Takver, Makk is in a deep, dreamlike, almost catatonic state. Moments back, when Makk first touches the throbbing mushroom, their flesh makes contact with the mushroom's universal veil that makes up its skin. And in an instant, the mycorrhizal network, the thread-like filaments that connect plants, trees, and fungi to one another underground, is activated and communication across space-time can take place. After all, the mycelium, as well as old-growth trees, have been around for hundreds of years. The nexus of roots and filaments with more roots and even more filaments is expansive. Thus, time-space as humans understand it makes little sense to them. They are timeless. You humans, on the other hand, are but a sip of breath in the respiratorial life cycle of an eternity. Makk's eyes are closed at this point, but because they is still interfaced with the ring device, they can still see. Although it's more like seeing with their mind's eye, except for the images are neither distant nor faint and blurry. In an instant, Makk no longer senses the familiar forest smells. Instead, what they smells is evocative and comforting and at the same time acrid and caustic. It's almost like the aroma of deep-fried dough that fills the night air during turning 16, hints of savory mixed with sweet. It kind of reminds them of the rich fragrance of caramelized sugars when they boil down the maple sap for syrup, but also commingled with toxic, poisonous off-gases from asphalt from the old road. As they focuses on their abruptly new surroundings, a whole different landscape pixelates into existence around them. The sounds are immediately overwhelming. Humming motors, huffing hydraulic brakes, and the other audible contamination that one can expect to hear at a busy, multi-level transportation hub. Suddenly, they is standing in a covered complex, much like a parking garage, but open to the ground floor on all sides, except for where the shopping mall lies. Large, angular support columns, stucco on cement, stretch from ground to ceiling, 15 of them in their line of vision. To the right, a line of 3 big blue buses opens their doors to let board the queue of anticipative commuters. Directly in front of Makk, there's a wooden, shed-like structure with a window, under which there's a horizontal protrusion used to eat or drink at while standing, maybe waiting for one's bus to arrive. Above the window in black lettering reads, Kurdish Kolach. They seize the chimney cakes, spiraled strips of dough rotating on their hot irons, and realizes that's where the sweet, yeasty smell is coming from. There are fluorescent lights indicating that the pop-up establishment sells coffee. And on the other side of the counter protrusion, inside the structure, there's a person staring directly at Makk. Only the bottom half of their bearded face can be seen from where Makk is looking. The rest is cast behind a shadow from the dim lighting. Under their nose, there is a big, tight-lipped smile. All the other people seem to be scurrying along with some destination in mind. There are a few people hanging out, smoking cigarettes, but most of them are walking quickly like they have some place to be and they're running late. Everyone, including Makk, is dressed so queerly. It feels to Makk as if they were in one of the performances that the storytellers put on with Old Master Dolores when they recount the times from before the Great Dying. This particular scene, though, must be from an even older story, because these buses use rubber tires to move about instead of maglev, magnetic levitation. Makk knows what a tire is. Their people have many uses for them, like planters for flowers or potatoes. Makk moves closer to the vague-faced person whose smile has ceased to waver, not even for a second. Then, without moving their lips, the person speaks to Makk. Their baritone voice is light and almost whimsical, as if they were talking cheerfully to a group of young'uns without mouthing a word. Their face doesn't move at all. "Don't be afraid, Bedap." They is trying to be reassuring. This is only a game. Then they raises their hands as if signaling all around them. Their mouth moves this time. I created all of this for you. They brings their once extended hands together, fingertips touching, creating triangle shapes. Your physical body is still in the forest near the bunker. There's a slight pause. I thought you'd never find my visual signals. It sure took you long enough. They laughed softly. It seems like I've been trying to get your attention forever. Makk interrupts the verbose stranger before their little speech turns into a never-ending monologue. Bedap? Why did you just call me Bedap? I'm Makk. The confused look on Makk's face sparks something in the stranger, and their smile transforms into a look of surprise and then to a look of recall. Oh, that's right. You're still Makk. You haven't adopted your new name yet. Oops. They playfully covers their mouth with their fingers, obviously embarrassed by the mistake. Spoiler alert. Sorry about that. I must have confused the timelines. Have you and Takver gone together to see old Tatos yet? Makk cocks their head, squints their eyes, and scrunches up their forehead in confusion. Then the person interrupts again. Oh, baso escuch. I just need to stop talking. They's much more animated than when Makk first saw them, their hands moving all over the place. Okay, so where to begin? You are Bedap, but you are also Makk. Or, now you are Makk, but you are Bedap, and I'm Bedap too. I'm you. I used to be Makk. Oh dear, I'm really screwing this one up. Makk hasn't moved one bit. They just stands there, frozen, waiting for something to make sense. Now, the person moves out of the shadows and their whole face is revealed. I am Bedap. You are Bedap. I am you. You are me. I'm an older you, and you are a younger me. We are us. With a confused look, they scratch at their head, one eye scrunched up like they's in deep thought. Oh dear. I don't remember it happening like this. Makk stares at the face that is staring back at them. They realizes that everything around them has paused except for the interaction with this new person. And then, after a moment, Makk speaks up again. So you're trying to tell me that you are me? Now the look on their face is one of defiance. Prove it. How do I know that you're not just some imposter? This could be the ring device messing with me. How do I know you're real and that you're not lying, that you're telling me the truth? The figure moves their gaze upward as if they's looking off into the distance, their lips scrunched left to form a thoughtful pout. Makk recognizes themselves in that face. That light, too light skin is so rare. It was thought to be bred out of existence, but, of course, Makk, strange, out-of-place Makk, just had to be born a light shade of peach. They just had to stand out in more than one way among their people. It wasn't enough that they had been, unable to share for the longest time. Makk, Bedap, brings their attention back to the accused imposter. Then Bedap speaks up again. Okay, I can do this. A few more seconds pass as they's considering how to proceed in this game of self-trivia. When we were only about 7 reawakenings old, we cut ourselves on a piece of metal. They pulls up the garment, covering their pale, once deep pink leg, and reveals a white scar. And the scar is still here along the bone. Makk does the same, revealing an identical scar, and then replies, You could just be making me see what I want to see. You're going to have to do better than that. Bedap, older Makk, huffs and puffs a bit, folding their arms across their chest and slouching, but then accepts the challenge. Okay. And their face lights up, as if a light bulb just went off in their head. I got it. Your favorite person from the stories of the last one is Telly. Per ability to bring out the latent telepathy, and per people, after decades of training, was always admirable. We secretly hoped that our sharing ability was also just latent. We had suffered so much until we met Takver. Younger Bedap's defiance is turning into annoyance as they feels they's being toyed with. This is not proof. New Bedap brings their hands that had been cupping their knees up to rest at their waist in a gesture of affront. You could have figured that out based on talks and my usage of the device. I'm not even close to being convinced, and I'm starting to lose my patience with you. Then, not so new Bedap remembers something that neither of them has ever told anyone, not even Takver, who was their closest friend. You've never kissed anyone. There, I said it. You've been around for 16 reawakenings and no one has ever shown any romantic interest in you. You're treated like an outcast, and deep down inside, you are relieved that your people aren't with you, because that way you don't have to face the daily shame of being so different from everyone else. Less experienced Bedap's face changes shade, making them feel like a beetroot. They never really meant to have those feelings, and once they hears how it sounds when it comes from someone else, even if they's them and vice versa, they's instantly embarrassed and ashamed. How could they be glad that their people are gone? How could they be so callous and so cruel to think such a thing? They instinctively looks around to make sure no one else could have heard that. The landscape directly behind them is the woods by the bunker. The shift in visual scenery is followed by an abrupt change that triggers the other senses as well. The general smell of the forest was immediately familiar. Dew-covered trees, leaves, and decaying duff. Even the air feels a bit more damp, and there is no slight wind blowing up against their face like back at the chimney cake stand. Then they spots Takver standing behind them, staring at them with their head slightly cocked to the side. The light from Hold outlines her from behind, making her silhouette glow silver. Hey, focus, chimney cake vendor Bedap snaps. Disoriented Bedap jerks back around, the vendor cart now in front of them. They closes their eyes to help catch their balance, as a bout of vertigo hits them. Pay attention, I have to go soon, but I want to give you this. They pulls out a shiny, disc-like object. But I need you to trade with me. There's a pause while Bedap, as their younger self, processes all that is happening. The look on their face takes older Bedap back to that very moment, and they remembers just how disoriented they felt. Sorry, I know this is a lot happening all at once, but our time is short. I need you to get the strange container with the piece of hair in it. I need you to go get it for me. It's in a see-through, hard glass container. Bedap is looking at their older self. They has so many questions, but there's no time to ask. Go get it, Makk! Go! Bedap's urgency causes them to start, and they quickly pushes themselves onto their feet. They turns around and looks at Takver. She is just staring at them, speechless. Then, new Bedap takes off toward the bunker. As they passes Takver, they says aloud, Sorry, no time to explain. I'll be right back. Takver watches as her sibling lifts up the hatch and climbs down into the bunker, letting the hatch close behind them with a bit of a loud thud, louder than she'd normally tolerate. She shakes her head and turns back to where Makk was kneeling. She can now see the glowing mushroom. She walks toward it slowly, thinking to herself, This is just like in the journals. She kneels on the ground in more or less the same spot Makk had just been. She reaches her hand out, carefully extending her fingers out toward the cap. She's been warned her whole life not to touch mushrooms that she didn't recognize. They could be poisonous after all, and you might forget to wash your hands and accidentally put your fingers in your mouth. Needless to say, she's hesitant because she doesn't recognize this variety. It looks like a toadstool, umbrella-esque cap, leathery scales of a different color than the cap, long stems with a vulva at the base, which used to protect the fruit when it was still immature. Takver is just about to make contact with the mushroom when Makk, now Bedap, but she doesn't know that yet, when they returns abruptly. Bedap grabs her hand, stopping it from touching the glowing fungus. Wait, Tak. I need to do something first. Bedap is now squatting next to Takver and touching the mushroom. I'll explain soon. There's no time right now. The Bedap from the other end is back in sight. It seems as though they hasn't moved a centimeter. This other Bedap must be around the age of Bodza, their netherblood, who is several reawakenings older than Malna, who they grew up thinking was their egg blood. They likes how the older version of them looks with a beard. It's different and it looks good on them. Set the vial, the glass thingy, with the hair, down at the base of the mushroom. Bearded Bedaps interrupts Peach Fuzz Bedap's wandering thoughts. Bedap places the cylindrical crystal vessel at the base of the mushroom. Takver watches as he does this. Then both watch as the mushroom's vulva opens at the ground and seemingly swallows the vial. What in the dry earth? Sib? What the? Takver stiffens and pulls back as if she were afraid that the mushroom would ingest her next. And just as she thinks things couldn't get any stranger, the impossible happens. A flat, shiny glass disc comes out of the same orifice into which the vial disappeared only moments earlier. According to Takver, Makk is reacting way too calmly and collected in response to the strangeness that just took place. Makk takes the disc between their thumb and forefinger and holds it up to inspect it more closely. It's light and cold to the touch. Younger Bedap closes their eyes and, within another moment, reopens them. At this point, the mushroom has stopped glowing. Whatever had just transpired seems to have come to an end. Bedap is on their feet again and is heading back toward the bunker. Makk! Stop! Takver mind yells to them. A red hue flashes through Bedap's mind vision. Will you tell me what the scorching earth is happening already? Bedap stops suddenly, their hand grasping the handle of the hatch access. Bedap. There's a pause. You can call me Bedap now. Presently, they's making eye contact with their sister. Bedap. I like the sound of it, and I really like the beard. I wonder when it'll start to grow. They strokes the ghost's beard at their chin, and a cheeky grin forms on their face. Takver thinks they's talking to her, but they's talking more to themselves. She gives them a look of bewilderment, reducing the space between her shoulders and her earlobes. Her face is scrunched up. Bedap receives the facial clues, interprets them as confusion, then speaks up. Sorry, Tak, come on, let's go. I'll tell you all about it. It's just all too exciting. Hurry up. They opens the hatch and is down the ladder before Takver can even straighten herself up. Then Takver thinks she hears a twig snap off in the distance. Just as she turns her head to glance over her shoulder, she catches a glimpse of a black-ringed, fluffy, cat-like tail before it disappears into the moonlit night. Thanks for listening to another episode of Fenn Thornbot Reads. If you want a notification for the next episode, don't forget to hit subscribe. If you liked what you listened to today, hit the like button. And if you think somebody else might like it, hit the share button. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time. You can interact with the book online at fennthornbot.fan or just scan the QR code above. And may hold guide you as naught makes itself scarce.